Most women never realize that the way they hug a man quietly tells him how they truly feel. Not the words they say, not the smile on their face, not even the way they look at him. It is that single hug, that one small moment that often leaves the strongest emotional impression. And here is the surprising part. The women who naturally create unforgettable moments are usually not doing anything difficult or magical. They are simply avoiding a few common mistakes that so many other women make without noticing. Those small mistakes can slowly weaken attraction before a man even has the chance to understand why he feels different. Think about that for a moment. We all grow up hearing the same advice. Be yourself, smile more, stay confident. Those things absolutely matter, but almost nobody ever explains what a simple hug can communicate emotionally. Nobody really sits down and says, this is what a man often feels during that moment. This is what makes him feel safe, connected, or unexpectedly distant. That conversation rarely happens. So if you've been doing what feels completely normal, there is no reason to feel embarrassed. You could not know something that was never explained to you. In this video, we're going to explore 3 common hugging habits that many women repeat without realizing how they may be affecting the connection. These are not bad women. They are caring, thoughtful women who genuinely like the man standing in front of them. Yet these small habits quietly send signals they never intended. They happen so naturally that almost nobody notices them, but they can slowly shape how a relationship develops. And then we'll look at a 4th approach. It's rarely discussed, but it often leaves a lasting emotional impression. It's the kind of moment that quietly stays in someone's mind long after the evening has ended. The kind of memory that comes back the next morning while he's driving to work, making coffee, or simply sitting in silence with his thoughts. So stay with me until the very end, because the final insight is the one most people never hear, and it may completely change the way you think about emotional connection through the smallest gestures. For many years, I've had the chance to talk with women from different countries and backgrounds, helping them better understand how men think, what they genuinely feel, and what truly catches their attention beneath the words they speak. One thing has become very clear over time. The smallest physical moments, the ones that seem completely ordinary, are often the moments men remember the longest. So before we go any further, there is one important idea you need to understand, because everything else builds from it. People often believe men carefully decide whether they like someone by replaying conversations, comparing personalities, or thinking about shared interests. Those things definitely matter later, but during the very first seconds of physical contact, something else happens first. His body begins answering questions before his mind even starts asking them. Does she feel comfortable with me? Does she enjoy being close to me? Is this a real moment or just a polite habit? Within 2 or 3 seconds of a hug, those answers are already forming deep inside without a single word being spoken. That isn't an exaggeration. It's simply how people naturally respond to body language. We notice physical signals much faster than spoken language. A hug is never just a hug. It quietly communicates emotion. It tells someone whether you're fully present, emotionally open, or simply going through the motions. And the difference between a hug that creates closeness and one that quietly builds distance is much smaller than most people imagine. Stay with me, because one small detail later in this video could completely change the way you see these everyday moments. Think back to a time when someone hugged you with real happiness. You probably didn't stop to analyze it. You felt it instantly. Their warmth reached you before a single thought entered your mind. Now remember the opposite experience. A quick, polite hug where the other person already seemed focused on something else. You recognized that feeling immediately too. No explanation was needed. The same thing happens when you hug a man. He isn't standing there judging every movement or looking for flaws. His body is simply reading the signals your body is sending. Those silent messages arrive before logic has a chance to catch up. That's why those few seconds matter so much. Not because anyone is keeping score, but because physical connection has its own language, and most of us were never taught how to speak it well. If this idea already feels familiar or helpful, take a second to tap the like button. It really helps this video reach more people who may never have heard this before. Now let's look at the first common mistake. I call it the back pat hug. Almost everyone has done this without thinking. You lean in, wrap your arms around him, and then gently tap his back 2 or 3 times. It feels harmless, maybe even polite, but think about where you've seen that gesture before. It's often used when comforting someone after bad news, or greeting a distant relative you haven't seen in months. It's respectful, but it doesn't naturally create closeness. Without realizing it, that quick tapping can make the hug feel formal instead of warm. Most women never intend that message. They might simply feel nervous or unsure about what to do with their hands, yet the feeling he receives is different. He senses a little emotional distance, even if none was intended. That's why so many men later describe a hug by saying things like, "It just felt a little stiff," or "I couldn't explain it, but it didn't feel very connected." They aren't criticizing the woman, they're simply describing the emotional signal their body picked up before their mind had time to explain it. Keep watching, because the next mistake is even more common, and most people never realize they're doing it. The second mistake is what I like to call the rushed hug. This is the hug that lasts barely a moment. You lean in, make contact for less than a second, and before the other person has even settled into the hug, you're already stepping away. There are plenty of understandable reasons this happens. Maybe you're in a busy place. Maybe you're shy. Maybe you're trying not to appear overly excited because you don't want to come across as too eager. Those feelings are completely normal. But the message that often gets received is much simpler than the reason behind it. A very quick exit can quietly feel like low interest. Most people don't stop and analyze every possible explanation. They simply respond to the experience they just had. That's why this mistake is so easy to make. Ironically, many women shorten the hug because they genuinely like the man and don't want to seem too obvious. They're trying to appear calm and confident. Yet from the outside, being intentionally relaxed can sometimes look almost identical to being emotionally distant. That tiny difference can completely change the feeling someone carries away from the moment. And believe it or not, the next mistake is even more surprising, because almost everyone thinks they're doing the right thing while accidentally creating the opposite effect. Stay with me, because the final insight may completely change how you think about every hug from now on. From the outside, it is almost impossible to notice the difference. You may believe you're doing the right thing by staying calm and not showing too much too soon. Meanwhile, he quietly walks away thinking, "She seems really nice, but I'm not sure she feels the same way." The surprising part is that you may never realize that impression was created. Now let's look at the third mistake, because this one quietly creates more distance than almost any other. I call it the distracted hug. Your body is there, but your attention is somewhere else completely. Maybe you're wondering what you'll say next. Maybe you're thinking about who else is watching. Maybe you're caught in your own thoughts, worrying about how you look or whether you're making a good impression. The hug still happens, but emotionally, you're only halfway there. His matters more than most people realize. Human beings naturally feel when someone is fully present with them. Even if it lasts only 3 or 4 seconds, real attention has a different energy. You don't have to explain it. You simply feel it. We've all experienced a hug that felt warm and genuine, and we've all experienced one that felt automatic and distant. Your body notices the difference long before your mind finds the words. Many women later say, "I was so nervous that night. I couldn't stop overthinking." Then they're confused when the connection afterward doesn't feel as strong. The reason is often much simpler than they expect. He sensed that distance too. Not because he was judging you, but because your attention never fully arrived in that moment. He usually doesn't think she was probably anxious. Instead, the feeling that quietly stays with him is, maybe I just wasn't that important to her. Even if that isn't true, even if you spent the whole evening thinking about him, the emotional memory created by that hug can stay with him much longer than either of you expects. Keep watching, because the next part is where everything starts to change. And this simple shift is something almost nobody ever talks about. Those 3 habits, the quick back pat, the rushed goodbye, and the distracted hug, happen every single day between people who genuinely care about each other. They seem small, almost invisible, yet they slowly shape how 2 people feel after they walk away. Most never realize these tiny moments are influencing the connection. Now let's talk about what actually creates a lasting impression. This isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It isn't a trick or a performance. It's simply about allowing yourself to be fully present for a few seconds and letting your actions match what you already feel inside. That's all it is. When you move in for a hug, let it be a real choice. Don't rush into it, and don't make it dramatic either. Simply hug him with quiet confidence, as if you truly wanted that moment to happen. Wrap your arms around him with natural warmth, not so tightly that it feels uncomfortable, but enough that he genuinely feels your presence. There is a huge difference between briefly touching someone and making them feel emotionally connected. That difference often comes from nothing more than honest intention. Here's the detail almost everyone misses. Stay with me, because this one small change can make more difference than anything we've talked about so far. While you're in the hug, take one slow, natural breath. It sounds almost too simple to matter, yet it changes everything. When you breathe, your shoulders soften, your body relaxes. Without saying a single word, that calm feeling is shared with the other person. Human beings naturally respond to each other's physical signals. If you're holding your breath, feeling tense, or silently counting the seconds until the hug is over, those feelings quietly pass across without either of you realizing it. But when you allow yourself one calm breath and simply stay present for that brief moment, the entire experience changes. He begins to relax too. The hug no longer feels like a social habit or a polite routine. Instead, it feels real. It feels comfortable. It feels like 2 people who genuinely enjoy being close for a moment, instead of 2 people following an unwritten social rule. And here's what makes this so powerful. It doesn't require perfect timing, perfect words, or perfect confidence. It only asks you to slow down enough to truly be there. That tiny shift is often what people remember long after everything else from the day has faded. And believe me, the final lesson coming next is even more surprising, because it explains why some hugs stay in a person's heart long after the moment itself is over. You won't want to miss it. That is how much difference one calm breath can make. It seems almost too small to matter, but it changes the feeling of the entire moment. Now let's talk about something that many people overlook completely: the ending of the hug. This is far more important than most people ever realize. A lot of women begin pulling away before the hug has naturally finished. It's almost like part of them has already left while the hug is still happening. Instead, try staying for just one small extra moment. Not long enough to feel uncomfortable, just one gentle pause that lets the hug finish naturally instead of ending too quickly. That tiny change creates a completely different feeling. Instead of seeming like someone who couldn't wait to move on, you become someone who was fully present until the very last second. Hat difference is surprisingly powerful. When you finally step back, let it happen slowly. Let your hands leave his shoulders or back in a relaxed, natural way. Don't pull away as if you're rushing toward the next thing on your schedule. The ending is the final memory his mind keeps from that interaction. It's the part that quietly stays with him after everything else is over. So let it feel calm, comfortable, and effortless. Then, once you've stepped back, simply look at him for a brief moment. Not a forced smile, not something rehearsed, just a genuine look that says you're happy the moment happened. If you truly enjoy being with him, that small glance costs nothing, yet it communicates more than many conversations ever could. It says everything without using a single word. I've heard men describe moments like this years later. They remember hugs that lasted only a few seconds, yet those memories stayed surprisingly clear. They often struggle to explain why. They simply say something like, "She made me feel like I was the only person there." And when those moments are broken down, the pattern is almost always the same. She stayed present. She didn't rush. She allowed the moment to be real. Then she looked at him before walking away. That's usually all it was. Stay with me, because the deeper reason behind this might completely change the way you think about attraction. The truth is, attraction rarely grows because of huge, dramatic moments. It usually grows through small moments of genuine connection that quietly build over time. A real hug is one of those moments because it doesn't depend on clever words or impressive gestures. It doesn't require planning or pretending. It's simply two people sharing a few honest seconds together. In a world where almost everyone is distracted by phones, busy schedules, and endless thoughts, being completely present has become surprisingly rare, and rare experiences are the ones people remember. Now let's go a little deeper, because this is where many women unknowingly make things harder for themselves. Most women who rush the hug, gently pat someone's back, or seem emotionally distracted aren't doing it because they don't care. They're doing it because they're afraid. Afraid of appearing too interested. Afraid of looking too eager. Afraid that if they show real warmth, they'll somehow lose their mystery or seem less attractive. Those fears are understandable. For years, people have heard advice telling them to stay cool, hide their feelings, and never reveal too much too soon. They've been told to let the other person do all the chasing. So they hug someone they genuinely like, yet they quietly hold themselves back. They shorten the moment. They create distance without realizing it. Later, they wonder why the connection never became stronger. If this sounds familiar, don't worry. The next part may completely change the way you approach these moments. Here's the idea I hope you remember long after this video ends. There is something incredibly attractive about someone who is comfortable enough to simply be warm and genuine. Someone who can enjoy a close moment without turning it into a performance. Someone who doesn't spend every second wondering how they're being judged. That calm confidence is what many people describe when they say someone has a magnetic presence. They rarely say it was because of perfect words or flawless body language. Instead, they say things like, "Everything just felt easy," or "being around them felt natural." That's what real presence looks like. It isn't a trick. It isn't something you memorize. It's simply allowing yourself to be fully there. Over the years, I've spoken with many women who were intelligent, kind, confident, and naturally beautiful. On paper, they seemed like they would have no trouble building meaningful relationships. Yet many still struggled, not because they lacked qualities, but because every important physical moment was interrupted by self-doubt. Their body was standing with the other person, but their thoughts were somewhere else, worrying about saying the right thing or making the perfect impression. They smiled politely, ended moments too quickly, and missed opportunities for real connection. The good news is that presence can be practiced. It begins with something as simple as slowing down, breathing, and allowing yourself to experience the moment instead of trying to control it. And believe it or not, the final lesson ahead ties all of these ideas together in a way that most people never expect. You won't want to miss what comes next.